Hello. So I worked really hard to make a beautiful slideshow with you. And for me, it's very important to weave the slides together with music. Here we go.
So clear it shone like gold. Then a voice like thunder clapped as a dead man I collapsed. I am the first, I am the last. Now rise, my son.
Going against the flow, is something that I live by. I mean, first of all, who's a photographer here? Everybody is a photographer these days. Going against the flow is trying to make a living at photography. It is one of the hardest professions. Well, according to the Bureau of Statistics, I think it's the second hardest profession. The hardest is being a rock star. So anyway, I've been making a living at photography since I was 17. I left home at a young age to go to Hawaii to be a surfer. My cousin, who was infinitely wiser than me at the time, said, well, you need a job. What do you do? And I said, well, I worked on the school yearbook. The next day, I was shooting tourists going to luau's in Waikiki, making a living, living on my own at 17 in Hawaii. It was amazing. So I want to just sort of skip forward a few years with a lot of training, a lot of exercise, a lot of practice, a lot of photos. At Pipeline, which was my favorite wave in the world. It's one of the most majestic, powerful, crazy waves on the planet. It breaks literally 25 yards off the beach onto a rock slab, and it will kill you if you're in the wrong place. And there was a day when we were standing on the beach, the best surfers and the best watermen in the world all around me, and none of us wanted to go in the water. It was too big. And I had made a little pact with myself that whenever I was facing that I would try and overcome it. So I put my head down that day. I didn't look at anybody, but I went back to my car and I loaded up my housing. I have a custom-made housing for my camera. I put my swim fins on. I didn't really look at anybody, but I walked down and I stepped in the sand. And that was a big deal, because once you step into the sand, there's no turning back. So I jumped in the water that day, and it was dangerous. To say it was not, I mean, it was dangerous and I was terrified. But I had been working for years for that moment. And that moment for me was my one step into the unknown. I made it through the whitewater, which is kind of amazing. When you're in Hawaii, the water piles up on the beach so much that it's like a class 5 rapid right off the sand. And you have to go in that and navigate through this little gap in the surf in order to make it out and not get exploded on a sandbar. So I'm swimming for everything I'm worth. And when you're adrenalized, your oxygen, you can feel the oxygen just draining out of your blood. And I'm aiming for that little mark, going about 20 knots sideways. And I made it. And that day, I got a picture of Pipeline. It was the last shot in the slideshow. It was one of the few empty waves to ever grace the cover of Surfing magazine. But that moment marked the beginning of my career as a professional photographer. And it was only because I chose to go against the flow. It was only because I had trained to go against the flow. And it was only because somehow, at that moment, when that test came, I found the courage to take that step. And I think that those moments occur in everybody's lives. We all have these passions, we all have these dreams, we're all preparing for something with our lives. And you have to know, I think, when you're facing that you should take that step. And it's interesting because in photography, you have to go against the flow in order to be decent at it. In photography, you have to go against the flow of everything it tells you to try and make a living at it, because it's very, very hard to do. But I'm standing here as a testament that you can do that. You can achieve these things, because I'm not an extraordinary talent. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I can assure you of that. But what I do have is I have a strong passion. And people talk about you have to have a passion and follow your passion and do this. But I really think it's the essence of life, is to have passion, to identify what that passion is in your life, and to follow that, no matter what it presents, whatever obstacles present themselves. Because of that passion, you will find. You know, after I'd been shooting for a number of years and I was working for Surfing Magazine, I started to think that I might have a chance at being a professional photographer. So I did what the flow said. I put together a portfolio. I thought it was as good as I could do, and I flew over to Los Angeles and I started to meet with agents and show my portfolio around. And it was heartbreaking. Everyone told me that I was unmarketable, which is the title of my slideshow. I thought, okay, well, at least I'll go surfing. So I got back on the plane, I went back to Hawaii, and I continued to work in the surf and around the elements and develop my skills. And the interesting thing is that photography teaches you many things, one of which is to think laterally. And I think that this is why working in your passion is so important, because if you have a goal, and if your passion is driving that goal, you will find those workarounds. Those agents said, I'm unmarketable. Fine, I'll go find another way to do it. I went back to Hawaii and continued to work and found a way to make it work. Coincidentally, my work at Surfing Magazine started to get very prolific, and I started to get recognized. All of a sudden, I was getting calls from the marketing director of Nike. We'd really like you to come and shoot an ad campaign for us. I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm not marketable. I don't have a portfolio. That's okay. We know what you can do. So I find myself in these crazy situations. One of the most crazy was working for Carmichael Lynch, one of the biggest ad agencies in the world. They hired me to shoot Polaris watercraft. We call them jet skis. And I find myself underneath Niagara Falls, working with these two cowboys who are jumping the rapids on the falls. And I'm sitting backwards trying to shoot this stuff, and I get dumped in the river. Fresh water is a whole different animal to the ocean. It's very dense, it's cold, and in this case it was moving through these Class 5 rapids. It was an incredible swim. I went down into some holes and was going around like this. Didn't know what to do, so I just stick my hand in the wall and get catapulted over to the next obstacle. The cowboy caught me about 5 miles down the river. I still had my camera in my hand, and I was alive. So there's a funny story. At the end of that ad campaign, I got a bill from the ad agency for $15,000 for the jet skis that we wrecked during that shoot. I didn't know we were wrecking them, but anyway, I figured a workaround to that. I withheld the photos. So the other thing I want to tell you is that during my incredible experiences, and I get asked so many times, what is the highlight of your career? Do you have a favorite photo? This and that. I would say no. What I have is a life experience. And the one thing that I have learned in my travels and in my life is that we live in the best country in the world. We live in the best time in the history of man. There has never been a time where we have had so much freedom and so much ability and so many things at our disposal to indulge our passions and to make a solid difference in the world. And I think that if you are not following your passion, it's time to wake up. And it's time to use that passion to meet your goals. And I really believe that if you achieve success, there's a lot to be done. You know, most photographers are just trying to feed themselves. It's a really, as I said, it's a really hard profession. I've been blessed with having success. And I have to tell you that I've gone on to use my photographic skills that I've learned swimming through the Niagara River, facing down those waves in Hawaii, to help people. And I've been very fortunate to be asked by a lot of people doing good works to lend a hand. And lately I've found myself wandering through Haiti, photographing people for a group called Plant with Purpose that's trying to really train farmers to do a better job. I've been able to go to Cambodia to work with World Vision, to look at human trafficking and help raise awareness for that. And I have to tell you that that is some of the most satisfying work that I've ever done. When you're doing something for the betterment of the community and the world in general, there is no greater application of your talents. So in closing, what I'd like to say is find that passion. Life is amazing. You know, when you wake up and your eyes work, which are amazing things, and your body's working, use that. I mean, it's amazing to be alive. And find that passion, lock onto it, and don't let anybody tell you that you're unmarketable. Thank you.